And Kamisha, it's always great to see you. Feel free to actually turn on your cameras. Don't be shy. We do not criticize here. So, we can start by criticizing actually my hair. It's not the perfect hair day for me because it's raining outside, and there was not much that I could do about it. So anyhow, throughout the years, I've been in commercial finance, and I've had the opportunity to work with thousands of businesses, and literally what I mean thousands of businesses. I started in 2007 in commercial finance, focusing specifically with new startups in really small businesses. And so there are some things that I've noticed throughout my career that have been consistent. And one of the things that I wanted to do to start our business series was to talk about the mindset of an entrepreneur. I think that it is critical as you make that shift from employee to entrepreneur to actually make that shift, because that's really what is going to determine if you're going to be successful as an entrepreneur. There's so many things that are so different when you make that change. And some of the times, if you don't have the right mindset and you're not willing to change, it's going to prevent you from growing your business. You might be able to go and be an owner operator of your business, but not much more than that. So as I've been interacting with a lot of you NOSA ladies that have called and said, okay, I'm thinking about starting my my nurse staffing agency, or I already started, but I don't know how to actually start getting more deals. I thought about maybe discussing the importance of your mindset. And so once you realize that you're no longer a good employee, just like I did, just like my business partner, Josh did. We both came from corporate America, had a very successful career, and we enjoyed it for a long time, building and running that company that we came from. But then we realized that we were not necessarily employee material anymore. And that is when we decided to pull the trigger and create our own commercial finance company. So if you're at that stage where you're thinking, you know what, I am not a good employee. I've tried it all. I feel like I know it all. I am going to go make that shift. That's your indication of, yes, I'm on the right route. I can be an entrepreneur. Do realize, and for like Kamisha and Shamika, that you already have a business. I don't know much about the other people that have joined us recently, but do realize that being an entrepreneur comes with a high level of responsibility. Okay. Now you're not necessarily just responsible for yourself, but if you do have customers, if you have employees, if you have partners, if you have companies that are depending on you, on your ethics, on who you are, and you actually executing on the things that that you have promised to do, you must do it. So it is a high level of responsibility of the greater calling that you have as an entrepreneur. And so with that being said, those are two of the main points that I wanted to start with, but there's a total of 10 points that I want to discuss, and hopefully we get through this. And I do encourage you to participate and ask questions as well, because this is going to make the conversation more interactive than anything. And for those that have had the opportunity to work with me directly, like Kamisha, and they've been part of those initial conversations that we have, they know that I don't focus too much on the actual business. I focus much more on knowing what's the mindset of my future client or my prospective client, just to make sure that we can actually move forward. But all the decisions going forward as an entrepreneur are going to be made by you. That is good decisions or bad decisions. All decisions will fall under you. So make sure that you understand that when you make that shift, that you're not going to wait on anyone to tell you how to solve a problem. You do want to surround yourself with mentors. You do want to surround yourself with people that can guide you through some of these challenges. But in the end, and Shamika can attest to this, you are the one with the final say, and you are the one that if you make that poor choice, and we all do, okay, you're going to live with that. So the other thing is developing a high sense of urgency. That's one of your responsibilities. Typically as an employee, You go in and I know the hours for nurses, they're a little bit different, but I'm going to use a typical corporate America time, 8 to 5. You clock in, you go work, you do your lunch, you take your breaks, and you clock out at 5. That does not exist as an entrepreneur. You're on 24/7. So you might have one cell phone, or like some of my clients, they have multiple phones because it's a 24/7 job. Yes, SJ. It's a 24/7 job where you can't wait to make a decision or make that call until a week from now. No, you are on it, and it's 24/7. You're no longer an 8 to 5 employee. And if you're not going to get into that mindset, don't even attempt to become an entrepreneur. Now, let's think about like 10 years from now, once you have a platform and you've built a business, maybe you're going to have the leisure to actually delegate, as you should, and enjoy the fruit of your labor. But in the early stages, as you're making that shift, you're it. And you got to be able to have that high level of responsibility and urgency as well. Those phone calls you need to make back, those emails you need to respond, all of those things. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't try to disconnect, because I will attest to this. This weekend, I actually disconnected for a couple of days. And it was so hard because I was getting messages and I needed to respond. I wanted to respond, but I forced myself to take a step back and say, during business hours or Monday, I'm just going to respond. But that's kind of like an off thing. It's not a consistent thing every weekend that I do. And so do understand that that is a must. The other thing will be your vision. So we all talk about visions, and one of my favorite ones is Steve Jobs. I follow Steve Jobs. Even after he passed away, I still read a lot about him. I watch a lot of his videos. The vision that Steve Jobs had was like no other that I have at least witnessed. And it's the same thing for your company. Even if you're just a one owner operator nurse staffing agency, if you have that vision of having 10, 20, 30, 40, that is the dream that will sustain you through all of those challenges that you're going to be facing. And believe me, even with all my experience in corporate America, even with a master's degree, even with great mentors that I have, if it wasn't because of the vision that I have for my company, for my community, and for empowering women, because I'm a big believer in empowering women, I would have already thrown the towel in and become probably an alcoholic because of all the challenges that I've had. Now, side note, I do drink occasionally, but I'm not an alcoholic. But but there's this vision that I have about the company that I want to create, that I want to build. And it's a company that is going to empower women like the many that are part of the NOSA Group, and the many male entrepreneurs as well. And so there's that sustain me and keeps me going, aside from also having the personal fulfillment of, achieving some level of success. But you must have a vision that will sustain you through challenging times. And believe me, you will have challenging times, okay? So think about whatever that vision is, even if it's as simple as creating a vision board. And I know it might sound a little out there, but it's powerful. It's extremely powerful if you do it and you just stay consistent on that, because challenges will happen. And anyone that has had success has never had a straight line to get to the successful part. It's been, going back, up, down. So do understand that. Okay. Any questions so far, or any comments?
Good to see you, Amanda.
Hi, good to see you as well. Thank you.
Hi,
so glad you were
Shamika.
able to join us.
Yes, thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you. And again, if you want to ask any questions or throw anything out there as far as your own experiences, please do. Feel free to interact. Like I said, I have 10 main bullet points that I want to cover. And so far, like the one about having a vision is so critical. You gotta have something that is going to sustain you. The other one would be, okay, this is part of your vision. We are the result today of what we did in the past. And so if you think about this, okay, if you want to have success 6 months from now, 12 months from now, or 2 years from now, what you're doing right now and how you're doing those things will determine the outcome 6 months from now or 12 months from now. The result of the success that PLEX Capital has had, and many of you that are connected with me through Facebook and social media, you have seen a lot of media coverage here in Kansas City about PLEX Capital and things like that. The success that we have today is because of all the work that we have put in, even when COVID happened, when everyone was being asked to work virtually and shutting down and hiding and, you know, just kind of throwing the towel because the COVID, the pandemic had basically impacted the lives of many. We decided, my business partner and I, we decided that we were not going to just act like everyone else. We decided that we were going to go, and this was the best opportunity to build our company and take it to the next level. And so all of the success that you have seen throughout social media with different TV channels and the media here in Kansas City covering PLEX Capital is because we were consistent and determined in doing what we needed to do in order to experience the level of success that we're experiencing right now. But that started early 2019, not, you know, early 2020. And so what I ask you to do as an entrepreneur is that you start thinking about, what does that look like? What is that goal that you have for 6 months from now, 12 months, 2 years, and so on? Because what you're doing right now will give you the results then. And whatever you're doing right now, I can assure you, these are the results of whatever you did or didn't do a few months back, a few weeks back, a few days back. So understand that you must have a plan and that everything you do will impact you in a positive or negative way. Okay? Shamika, anything you want to add to that?
No, and I don't want to add, maybe a little bit. I would say, you know, the importance of just kind of taking out the time, you know, really, you know, I know a lot of people are eager to jumpstart and get their agency up and running, but you really want to take out the time in the earlier stages to really develop the business, not so much for what it'll be today, but really what you see it being in the future. And then you can kind of, you know, peel back or go back to from there to where you want it to be. I think in our experience, you know, we did jump in very early on, and we did just kind of jump in and run the business. You know, we know how to run staffing agencies. We can do this, da, da, da. But in retrospect, I would, you know, encourage even us, if we could go back in time, to really sit with it, because the business grew so fast that so many opportunities and doors were open, but we hadn't really planned it out as much as we needed to kind of be able to say, okay, so this is a good fit for our organization. This isn't a good fit for our organization. So if you have things really planned out, like 3 to 5 years, like where does the business, what is it supposed to be doing? That helps you in making those decisions, because some of the roads that you may go down that might look lucrative in the moment could come back later and create some challenges for you.
That is for sure. Yes. And someone asked, I think it was Kamisha, I kind of glanced at the question, what was, let's see. Give me 1 second. What does 6-month goal setting and 12-month goal setting look like for you? What do you focus on? Okay, so I am a huge believer in reverse engineering. And so we're gonna pause to cover this question. So I have standards of living. I have goals of how I want to live, how quickly I want to retire, and maybe eventually sell PLEX Capital in 14 years. That's kind of like the time frame I gave my business partner. But to me, is reverse engineering is taking that number. If your goal is to have a $2 million salary a year, or $1 million or $500,000, X number, what you need to do is reverse engineer that number and say, okay, in order for me to make X amount every year is going to take X number of clients with this percentage of revenue, and it's going to take this number of employees, and it's going to take this number of referrals, and it's going to take this number of sales, and you just reverse engineer all of that. So my goals typically, they are numbers. They are, okay, what's the lifestyle that Amanda wants to have? What's the contribution that Amanda wants to have? What's the value that I want to have on my company 10 years from now or 14 years from now when we decide to sell? Or maybe continue to operate, but that is my goal. And then I just reverse engineer. So I encourage you to know exactly what that number is for you. And you might shoot a little bit higher, right? And you might think, well, that's crazy. I guarantee you that if you aim that high and you reverse engineer and you actually take the steps to go and put the plan together based on that reverse engineering approach, you are going to get there, because that's how you're going to be able to focus on what's necessary to attain that goal. And I think that was the second question, is how do you focus? What do you focus on? I'm going to focus on high activities that actually create revenue. So revenue activities for PLEX Capital. So that is all of you that follow me on Facebook, and you see that I'm always in different organizations, different networking events. I get very, very involved throughout, not only here in Kansas City, but even nationwide as it is right now, on activities that will generate revenue for our company based on the goals that I have. Okay.
And I would piggyback a little bit on what Amanda said. So kind of what we did as far as like goal setting, was a big part of our goals was to replace our incomes so that we no longer had to work the business. So that gives you kind of what Amanda was saying, that gives you a number. So like, you know how much money it costs to run your household a month, a year, so on and so forth. So that was like our initial goal. But after that first year or two, that goal is too limiting. So we started doing what Amanda mentioned as far as reverse engineering, in that, hey, what do I want the business to look like in 5 years? Like really detailed, who would be involved? Would there be employees? You know, would there be in-house employees? Will I have a commercial space? How much involvement and time would I be spending in the business? And what we did kind of as we transitioned there, for the people that ended up working with us, like in the recruiter role, we set goals for them too. Yep. So everybody in the organization is kind of moving towards this one ultimate goal. And it could be, hey, I want to be a billionaire. That wasn't the case. But if that was what I was thinking, you're kind of always moving in that direction from a monthly, weekly, quarterly, yearly basis. And it also allows you to hold yourself accountable. So whatever those things were, like if, say, for instance, you know, we wanted to have like a 20K week, we would put that on our vision board or our wall. You know, we would, you know, hype and pump up our staff to help us get there. Or, you know, for us, it's a little bit different to kind of say a salary. I know early on we were like, okay, 300 hours a week. We want to do 300 hours. Then we were 500 hours. Then we were 1,000 hours. And as you start hitting the goals, you get excited about it. It's like, well, I didn't think I could even do 2 hours. And now we're at 2,000 hours, or we're at 500 hours, and we're really hitting it. So it makes it more attainable. And then we definitely had months where we didn't hit the goal. And that kind of gives you the opportunity to look back and kind of say, hey, what went wrong? So that as you enter into the next month, you can tweak that, get rid of people, because I'm gonna be honest, we definitely had to get rid of some people. And keep moving forward. Yeah, Kamisha, it can be done, but the way that Amanda talks about it, and Amanda, maybe you have a link or something you can share with people where it shows them how that works. That works way better than doing that month to month, quarter to quarter in current time. And you're more motivated. So like now for you guys, you should be talking about or thinking about or implementing the things that are gonna move and shake for you in 2022.
Yeah.
You know, what does your business look like in 2023, 2025? And if you haven't, you know, I encourage you to really sit down and do that because it saves time. So it saves times and it helps you kind of steer your conversation a little bit better as well.
But thanks for that, Shamika, because like I said, one of the questions that Kamisha had was, what do you focus on? Well, knowing the numbers that I personally want to hit, that tells me what to focus on. I cannot be involved in chit-chatting here and there. I need to be involved in conversations that are going to move us closer to that goal. And so I have to identify those areas where even if I don't go and necessarily get something right away, I am still planting the seed to be able to get me to that goal. And so all of my activities, and again, if you're following me on social media, you will see me with a wide variety of different people that I'm interacting with, from politicians to SCORE mentors to, everyone that I know one way or another can benefit from my knowledge, and that are also working with potential prospects for PLEX Capital, where I can use that platform and not necessarily take something immediately. I'm not all about taking, I'm all about giving and receiving, having an equal balance. And it's pretty amazing how it happens in business. So again, identify what those activities are based on the reverse engineering you do on your goals. That's how you focus on. Okay, let's see. And then the last question Shamika had was about mentors. So funny thing, I've never had an official mentor, but I've had selected my virtual mentors. And so I talked a little bit about Steve Jobs. I'm a big fan. People have mixed feelings about what he did and who he was and things like that. I just admire everything that he did. He literally changed the world. And so I try to get into his mindset from reading about his books, watching videos, just learning everything that he did throughout in order to build the empire that he built. And it's pretty amazing what you learn just by doing that. In addition to it, now that I'm so involved here in Kansas City in the business community, I've approached a couple people that I know and that I have a close relationship with, that have started banks, and those banks have gone public, to be our business mentor. And so it's not necessarily someone that sits with me individually, but it's someone that comes here and sits with Josh and myself and challenges what we're working on, and gives us advice as well. And I think you got to have a very high level of responsibility when you do approach someone, especially if it's someone of high net worth, someone that their hours are so valuable. You got to have a high level of respect for that. So the moment that you ask if they can mentor you, you're making a commitment to be the best of the best students, to always be prepared, and to actually execute on the advice that you're being given. Okay. All right. The next one is, go right ahead. Did you have a question, Shamika?
No, I was going to agree with you. I think the mentorship piece and people, because I've mentored people, I've had mentors. I will say I didn't have a mentor for staff and I could have used one. Is that, are you ready for a mentor? And I think many people make the assumption that I want to start a business, so I should get a mentor. And that's a great concept. But some of the things that were mentioned earlier, if you're not ready to commit to what it means to have a mentor and work with someone on that level, you might want to take a little bit more time to kind of build yourself up a little bit. And understand that there's different types of mentors. I have group mentors. I have a lot of different mentors that serve different purposes for me at this stage. And if I don't know what direction I'm going in, I definitely have those moments, then you don't want to connect with someone and give the perception that you're wasting their time. So the same way that you would interview an applicant, interview a mentor. Maybe they're not a good fit, maybe they're a great fit, but come with realistic expectations and also be knowledgeable as to what they do, as well as what you can bring to the table, because it should be a mutually beneficial relationship or business relationship with them, so that they know, like Amanda was saying, what you give them, they're actually going to do something with, versus it just kind of being a conversation between, two people in business, which is a little bit different. So.
Absolutely. I'm in agreement. So the next one is something that a lot of people struggle with, especially if you're not type A personality, like maybe like myself, I can go and talk to the wall without an issue. But get out of your comfort zone. So many times, especially as an employee, we really live in a little box where we are being told what to do, how to do it. And when you become an entrepreneur, you gotta be able to get out and say, okay, I am going to, I'll give you an example. And this is something that is so easy to remember. When I became an entrepreneur and left corporate America and said, okay, I'm gonna go and be an entrepreneur, I said, I'm willing to listen, learn, and change. And that literally became my LLC. Listen, learn, and change. I was just open. I had to reinvent myself from being a high executive to now like rolling up my sleeves and saying, I'm going to go and I'm going to immerse myself into doing everything that I had teams back in corporate America to actually do it for me. So learn new things, get familiar with sales, with accounting, with CRM systems, with contracts. You need to be able to get out of your comfort zone and just don't say, well, I'm just not that type of person. I just don't get numbers. No, fall in love with numbers. Understand your company's financials, your profit and loss, also known as your P&L, your financial statement. Have a very clear understanding of your cash flow. What goes out, what comes in, how to calculate a good bid, not just because someone is interested in doing business with you. Does that mean that you're going to be super profitable? If you're not calculating your numbers, if you do not understand your numbers, your business is not going to be sustainable. That's the easiest way of killing your business. And so listen, learn, and change. If numbers are not your thing, go do it. If sales is not your thing, go do it. Get out of that comfort zone because it's going to pay off. I will tell you, anything business development to me comes natural. As I alluded earlier, I can go talk to the wall. I don't have any issue getting in front of people and speaking to people so long as I understand the topic of whatever it is that I'm going to be discussing. But you give me P&Ls and financials and things like that, I understand them. I will review them. I know exactly what's going on, but I do not. And I cannot sit there for hours and hours talking about P&Ls and financial statements, yet I can still sit with whomever I need to sit to discuss those numbers and have a clear understanding of what everything means. So go learn, fall in love with numbers, make sure you understand the ins and outs, how much money goes out, how much money comes in, when does it go out, when does it come in, and just gain that knowledge. Shamika, was it a struggle for you to fall in love with numbers, or was that something that came natural to you?
It came a little bit natural. So many people don't know when I updated the post. So I already have a human resources background. And I also have a bachelor's degree in business. So I didn't like accounting in school, but I know what, it's one of those things, you know what it is.
Yeah.
So some of it came naturally. I think one of the biggest challenges, and I think it's also a challenge for a lot of NOSAs, it's a sales and marketing piece. So of course, I'm not afraid to talk to people, you guys know that. But the ability to sell somebody on something is a different skill set. And it was something that I had to practice. And there are a lot of free Google classes, YouTube, like YouTube University is a real thing, is a place to help you create a plan. If you're nervous, if you're unsure, if you're new to it, and then you're really able to practice it. So there's definitely skill sets in business that you have to practice. So for me, that was the thing because I was the one responsible for it. But once you get the hang of it, it really does come a lot naturally. Social media was also a challenge for me. As you guys see, I've overcome that as well. And it was just a matter of doing it. And I did it. I followed people that I was interested in and, identify the things that caught my eye, that made sense, or the things that I didn't like as well. And that was kind of, things that I added to my existing personality or tweaked. The financial piece, For me, Google has a lot of free classes. Probably in our second year, I went to a Grow with Google session they were having at libraries throughout the country. I shared it with you guys. It made a huge impact. They talked about a lot of the, the IT side of things, but they also kind of talked about business too. So, connecting with your small business development center and scores and things like that help you practice that skill. Help you understand, like Amanda was saying, understand the financials, understand a P&L, understand how to create a realistic budget. What it means to have like capital before you get started and why you should have it and where you can get it from. Understanding reading contracts. A big part of what we do on this end of things is understanding the contract that you're reading so that you don't get yourself into a bad situation. And I think Amanda's seen it, I've seen it, and it's the untangling of a contract is expensive and it's timely. So yes, you want to seek the expertise of lawyers and accountants and things like that, but you also want to understand it for yourself as well. Yeah. So that when you're looking and reading these things, you can ask questions. I'm the question queen. Amanda, Natalie, all the people that you guys have had long question sessions with me. I've asked questions that you guys have, as well as I have. For our agency, we didn't do funding, so I didn't really understand it. So I went to the source and I asked a whole bunch of questions, just to even be able to communicate it with others and then understand it if it's an option that, I decide to go with at any given point. So definitely don't be afraid to ask questions if you're not comfortable with the skill set. It's just not acceptable to me for you to say, oh no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to have somebody else do it. Yeah. No, that's your business. You need to know what's going on. And it may not be something that you do on a full-time basis, but it's something that you need to know so that you don't get taken advantage of.
Absolutely. No, and that's well said, Shamika. So one of the things that I see the most is people just kind of neglecting what they don't enjoy the most. And listen, you need to delegate, which is one of the points that we will be covering here shortly, but it's critical for you to delegate, but you need to have a good understanding of everything. Don't just say, well, I'm not an accountant person. I'm not a CPA. Like, you still have that level of responsibility. And that's one of the most beautiful things about being an entrepreneur. It really forces you to go and learn and become really a learner of everything, because a business requires a good understanding of your financials, a good understanding of legalities, especially, I mean, you are the perfect example. You are dealing with a lot of legalities when you're hiring nurses that need to be licensed, that, they have all of these requirements. So understand all of that. And maybe you're not an expert. We're not saying go and become an expert, but have a very good understanding about what it takes. SJ,
I really like their company.
What company?
Plex Capital. They don't own your stuff.
No, it is a funding company.
SJ, you have a question? Go right ahead, please.
Yes, I just wanted to, greetings. Thank you, Amanda, for doing this presentation. And Shamika, thank you for putting this together. I really appreciate it. Even though I'm not going to be able to stay the entire time, I just wanted to jump on. However, I wanted to respond to what I heard each of you say, both Amanda and Shamika. One of the things I never forgot Oprah Winfrey said a long time ago, as she was building her empire. One of the things she said is that she never wanted to get so big until she never wanted to get so big until she did not understand her finances. She did not want to turn that on. She still doesn't until this very point. Turn it over to other people. So I'm just affirming what each of you are saying. And I always remember that, is that if you're so big and you have so much money until you want someone else to manage it, that's a problem.
No, that is the well said as well, SJ. And what I would say is this, is that, we all have our fortes, like we have those things that we just dominate. Once again, for me, it's everything business development. I've been in commercial finance really my entire career, and it has been specifically in the area of business development, everything that has to do with creating new programs, launching new programs, getting marketing out, putting a good marketing team together, a good business development team together, a good sales training package for all of our salespeople. Like that has been that I can speak to it day and night until you just pay me to shut up. But, when it comes to like everything else, as far as accounting and things like that, I will go read it, understand where we're at, all of that stuff, but you cannot pay me enough to be in a room to just go and execute on all of that stuff. But I have a good understanding, and that's good enough for me, and that should be good enough for you if that's not your forte. Go focus on the things that you do very, very well, gain a good understanding of everything that the business requires, and then hire a really good team to go and do those things for you. Okay. All right. Let's see. And time is flying. Okay. This is one of my things. And again, for those of you that follow me, I am the type of person that goes and challenges the status quo. So we all come here to get knowledge, and the NOSA Group is absolutely fantastic. I think Shamika has created something amazing, and I've said it to her when we've been on phone calls one-on-one. But go challenge the status quo. Just because something has never been done doesn't mean that you can't go do it. And as an entrepreneur, you got to have that level of imagination to go and test the waters, go and break whatever that illusion is of like, well, it's their staffing agencies. We all do the same. Go challenge the status quo. Okay. Go do something that has never been done. Maybe there's a little twist that you can add to your staffing agency so you don't sound like the rest. I've had people complain about competition. I got to tell you one thing, competition doesn't exist if you're the best. Okay. And so if you go in with that mentality, you will go, and your own confidence will allow you to open up doors with facilities that maybe you never thought they were possible to go in and go in and set up a deal with them. So one of the things that I have, and I think that I don't claim to be successful, but I've had a level of success in my career. And the reason why is because I do go and challenge the status quo. I do not allow labels to keep me outside of the door. I use the labels, whatever labels people want to put on me, to move me into the room that I want to go in, or the company that I want to go in. But I do it in a way that is, I would say, with elegance, but determination. I am not someone that is going to go as a bulldog and just kind of fight people. No, there is a level of elegance. There's a level of determination that will allow you to go and challenge the status quo. And so I encourage every single one of you, regardless of what stage you are with your business, that you go and try to break whatever that illusion is of like, oh, I can't do that because no one has done it. Go try it. Believe me, if you have a good idea, if you think that it's possible, go challenge it. But always do it with elegance, please, especially for my NOSA ladies. We got to keep the classiness. Okay. And then the other thing that I see is, and we're almost done. The other thing that I see is that a lot of the times as entrepreneurs, we forget to delegate. We get to a point where we want to do it all. And we forget to actually do what we do best. Once you get to that point, make sure that you start delegating and delegating it to the right staff, or the support team that you've hired. Never, ever attempt to do everything by yourself, especially when you are at capacity. So that would be the other thing. Learn to know when it is time to delegate, because you do not want to just become stagnant and not grow anymore because you're too afraid to delegating certain tasks within your company. Okay. And lastly, it would be if you are at that stage thinking about getting started, start now. I mean, time is flying, and we are only getting older, and if you know that you're ready to make that switch from an employee to an entrepreneur, you're still kind of in between, just start. Do go and find the guidance that you need in order to move forward. but don't just sit there for another year or 2 years and then wish that you would have done it 2 years ago. So that would be my suggestion. But yeah, those are all the points that I have. I'm open to questions, and hopefully all of this information has been beneficial. Shamika?
Yes, I was gonna say, you guys can drop questions in the chat box, because Amanda can see the chat box. Or you can, if you want to talk, you can just unmute yourselves if you have any questions for her, or if you have any questions for me. She kind of touched on a lot of things. I think some things to remember, especially as you grow, because I think there's a couple of people in here who are already established, is the delegating duties to the right person, as well as identifying what you need help with. I think initially, many of us think to go to a recruiter or a scheduler, but sometimes that's not what you really need help with. But if you don't know, I think Amanda did a post, I think Dee Marie mentioned it. If you don't know what you need help with, you'll get a recruiter and you already have a system that recruits for you, or you already have built-in applicants, but your need is maybe administration or technology or social media. So just like with everything, take out the time and see the tasks that you're doing repeatedly, the tasks that are overwhelming or time consuming, see if you can automate it. That's what we did. We never hired a scheduler. We just automated our scheduling. Yeah. But we did hire recruiters, which was more of what we needed assistance with, as far as like compliance, paperwork and stuff like that. And be open to training people. Like, you don't have to hire a recruiter that may ask for $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year versus hiring a college student that you can train. So I would, in expanding and kind of starting, think about those things. And there's an org chart on the group of what we used, and we worked with 5 people successfully. So don't spend money unnecessarily was a big part of how we ran. So I hope that you guys do the same. So I think we got a couple of questions, Amanda.
All right, let's see. Let's take a look at this really quick. Shamika rocks. Yes, we know. SJ, you want to be the gorilla in the industry? I would say that I know that what we have to offer is something of value, and we have high values that we really try to run with on a daily basis. And for those that have had the opportunity to do a video conference call with us, they all understand that we do not get on the phone and do a sales presentation. If anyone is inquiring about our services, there's going to be a video conference call that we need to schedule, and then we'll talk, because as much of an interview as you're doing as far as what we offer and who we are, we're also doing that as well with you. Yes, Shamika?
Oh, I think that was the only question. I think the other question was about whether or not it will be saved. So yeah, the video gets saved. I just asked you guys to be patient with me to get it going. So it'll be up this week. So another thing, set realistic expectations. So I'm going to say this week. So you guys can check it out. And if you guys don't have any questions, I want to thank Amanda for hanging out with us and taking out the time to kind of share this good information. Hopefully, okay. So we got a question, Amanda.
Thank you as well. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Which would you recommend, startup capital or a funding company? Well, it really depends on the goal. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. Is if you can self-finance your company, that's always going to be the cheapest method. But if you're using a company like PLEX Capital, for example, funding is one of the things that we do. That is our core business. But there's also that, that we discuss surrounding yourself with people that can guide you. There's a lot of knowledge here at PLEX Capital, because we have worked with a lot of businesses, not only in healthcare, but outside of healthcare as well. And we also have the ability to evaluate your customers' credit worthiness, which that is huge. I think recently we have seen some of the members post how they're struggling to collect directly from their customers. So it's really up to what you want to do. I am biased Again, I've been in commercial finance for 14 years, and I have seen the value that we've brought to our clients with PLEX Capital and through the other company that we ran, just by simply having us there. So one thing is funding, but the other thing is also the guidance that we were giving to them. So hopefully I answer your question. And you know, one of the things that we talked about during this presentation was getting out of your comfort zone.
Thank you. Okay.
So
We're having some technical difficulties.
okay.
Okay.
All right. And so one of the things that we discussed earlier on was that we need to get out of our comfort zone. And maybe all of you have things going on in the background and things like that. This is a great opportunity to get out of your comfort zone. Turn on that video camera and actually start asking questions, because you have a wealth of information here that you have easy access to. So feel free to start asking questions, you know, turn on that camera and interact, socialize. This is the best platform to do so.
I think we have one more question in the chat, Amanda, about setting up time with you.
Yes. So what you can do is send me a PM. I can send you also my cell phone number, and you can send me a text, and we can schedule a video conference call. Once that we do that, you'll receive a link, and then we'll connect that way. My expectation is not always just to come and do business with me. I truly, I'm a believer of giving and receiving. And I know that, you know, that the universe is big. So just because I speak with you, that doesn't mean that I expect you to do business with me. So I will type my cell right now. Feel free to text. And I'm typically pretty good about responding within 24 hours. I am late. If you
24
don't,
hours or 20 minutes.
excuse me?
24 hours or 20 minutes. You responded to me in 20 minutes with the
I
call.
did.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. I try to be very conscious of you know, the fact that you're trusting me to have a conversation with me. So I do my best when I'm able to. The other one would be, let's see, so we can wrap up things. If you don't have any contracts, how do you think work if you have sign up? I'm not sure that I'm understanding the question, but I'm going to assume that the question is, if I sign up with PLEX Capital and I don't have any contracts, how does that impact me? It doesn't impact you at all, other than just having the account ready to go for whenever you get those contracts, because we do not have any minimum fees or hidden fees or setup fees or anything like that. Once you get it set up, it's ready to go for that day that you do get that contract. Okay. Shamika, I don't have anything else. If anyone has any questions, I posted my cell phone number. Feel free to text, and we can definitely arrange a video conference call if we need to. But you know, just change your mindset. Being an employee, you're being told what to do, when to do it, and you do it. Being an entrepreneur comes with a high level of responsibilities. Yes, SJ?
Yes, thank you. I just thought of a question. Sorry about that. W-2 or a W-2 or a I-9 or contract. How do you
1099.
how do you know whether or not you should be, can you do both? Should you operate with one or the other, a W-9 or a W-2?
A W-2 or a 1099, Sarah.
1099. Thank
Yes.
you. 1099 is contract. Thank you. And I think it's 844 and 8, yeah. 1099 or W-2.
Shamika?
That's an interesting question. The only thing is, I would say we did W-2. There's many people who've done 1099s. I, as a travel nurse, have worked for companies that operate under a 1099. I think I replied, and I can tag you in the post, Sarah, to someone else's question around that. When I did work as a 1099, that particular company was sued. And they were sued for not paying overtime wages and also improperly placing us in a status of 1099. So traditionally, and some of that has changed. So I encourage you to check out the IRS regs, talk to your accountant, talk to your lawyer. The direction of how you work is kind of the basis of that. So like people like accountants and lawyers typically are your 1099s. And there's a lot of other roles. And one of the reasons that for us, we did not choose 1099 was because in most settings outside of home care, in most facilities, healthcare types of settings, our care is directed by a supervisor, a director of nursing, ADON, or a charge nurse. So that independence that many people interpret irregularly is not in place. It's not in place with us. So we don't go into a floor and determine if we're going to work with this patient and what that looks like. So we do have a scope of practice that we work within, but it's not related to the fact that we don't determine what works. So we couldn't say, oh, I'm going to do the wound care for this person without a physician's order. So there's more layers to what we do. I'm going to be honest, and I shared in the post, it's done in the industry. But what a lot of people fail to realize, and maybe Amanda, you can even touch on it, is just because you're doing it wrong,
right,
doesn't mean you won't get caught. So there are also members in the group that operated their agencies as 1099s and sent people to facilities and received nice letters from the IRS. And there are people who have done it and haven't, but it's not to say that you won't. So my notion and our notion, and a lot of your vendor management systems are set up that way, is just do it right the first go around, pay the money, pay the taxes, because that's the only benefit to employees and employers is the quote unquote tax break. So I say W-2s, but I also am privy and aware of the fact that that's not really a conversation that I'm an expert at. I just have my own experiences, and I don't feel like the IRS regs that many people have interpreted as lay people is intended for that purposes. And that's why we have accountants and H&R Block and Tax Turbo and things like that. So at the level that we would interpret it and say, oh yeah, well, we can kind of determine our schedule. We can kind of do these different things. In reality, the tax regs have a whole different level of what they intended it for.
Thank you for that response. And as you started speaking, it started to click. Yes, and I'll read on it some more, but again, they're not contractors. They are employees according to the IRS.
Yeah, right. But like I said, talk to your accountant, talk to your tax professionals, and get, more information. But for us, no. W-2s.
Thank you.
Well, I think our time is up. I do thank you, all of you, for joining us. And again, this is kind of like the kickoff of our business series that we started. We'll be presenting in 2 weeks as well. And again, for me, this was more of a casual conversation of the main things that I have seen throughout my career that matter a lot, because having the right mindset will determine if you succeed, being an entrepreneur, or if you fail. And if you don't have the right mentality, you're not going to make it far.
So, and everything Amanda shared is true. I think that transition can take a couple of weeks for some people. It could take several months. I was like, but if you don't invest the time, you'll actually end up creating extra hurdles for yourself unnecessarily along the way. I know for us, and I just wanted to chime in. When I started working the agency, from working floor nursing, doing 12-hour shifts, I was working 16-hour shifts. We had people who worked overnight shifts. If they needed some information or call out, they're calling me because I was a scheduler at 2 o'clock in the morning, at 6 o'clock in the morning, at 5 a.m., 4 a.m., so the passion and desire and excitement of doing it was definitely what kept me up with a cup of coffee. But I did it for an entire year. We worked 7 days a week, on average about 16 hours a day. So was it worth it? Of course. But was it easy? By no stretch of the imagination. And it was kind of like, the topic is making that transition from employee to entrepreneur or employee to employer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, when Shamika, when you have the opportunity to post the video, the replay, please add all of my contact information. Anyone is always welcome to reach out. And like I said, I'm pretty good about returning phone calls, typically within 24 hours, except on the weekends. I'm kind of just being a little bit more firm with myself, not to overwork myself on the weekends. But yeah, feel free to reach out at no cost. I always invite you to reach out and just introduce yourself and what you're thinking about doing with your business. If it's a good fit, perfect. We welcome the opportunity. And if it's not, it's okay. You're not going to get a bill from PLEX Capital.
And thank you, Amanda. Thank you, guys. And Amanda's in the group, so you can see her in the group. She has her actual phone number is also here listed on the Zoom under her name. So, and it's in the chat. So if you want to connect with her, feel free to do so. As well, she's going to have another session in 2 weeks, 2 Tuesdays from now. So feel free to join that as well. I think that topic, Amanda, is that one sales and marketing? Or
no, the sales and marketing is a month from now. Yeah, and
Okay.
that one, please get prepared because I will talk forever. I mean, you're gonna have to cut me out. that is really like what's in my blood. Everything business development. So that I feel pretty good about all of them. I'm dangerous enough to talk a little bit about everything, but when it comes to everything regarding business development, I think I can champion that one.
Okay, well, we'll see you on the Tuesday after next, and thank you guys for hanging out with us again. As always, it'll be shared to the group. If you have any questions to me, you can reach me in the group Messenger. Same thing with Amanda. You can reach her on Messenger as well, or reach out to her directly. You guys have a great rest of your Tuesday, and I'll be chatting with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Keisha.